Rome, the eternal city, a land built on ambition, blood, and divine power. In the heart of that empire stood a young man, born not to rule, but to destroy himself trying. His name was Nero Claudius Caesar. To some he was an artist, to others a tyrant, but to history he became a warning. A story of how power, once tasted, devours everything it touches. Rome ruled the world with iron and fire. But behind its golden statues and marble halls stood a young emperor who burned it all for glory. He called himself an artist. History calls him a monster. This is the story of Nero, the boy who inherited an empire and destroyed it with his own hands. Welcome to History Unsealed. Nero was born in the year 37 AD in a world that worshipped strength and feared weakness. His father, a brutal nobleman, died when Nero was just 3 years old. His mother, Agrippina the Younger, was left to survive in a court ruled by her own brother, Emperor Caligula, one of the most feared men in Rome. Agrippina learned early that survival in Rome meant more than loyalty, it meant control. And she vowed that one day, her son would rule not just Rome but the world. She played the game of power like no one else. She charmed, poisoned, and manipulated her way back into influence. When Emperor Claudius, her uncle, became widowed, Agrippina saw her chance. She seduced him, married him. And soon after, rumors spread, the emperor's own cup of wine had been poisoned. Claudius was dead. Nero, barely 16, became the emperor of Rome. At first, the world saw a miracle. A young emperor with the face of a poet and the dreams of a philosopher. He abolished unfair taxes. He gave freedom to slaves. He opened the palace gates to the poor. Rome rejoiced. The Senate praised him. The people believed they had found a new age of light. But behind that light, shadows were growing. Because Nero's throne was not truly his, it belonged to his mother. Agrippina ruled from behind the curtain, whispering orders, deciding who lived and who died. Every decision, every law passed through her hands. And slowly, the boy emperor began to suffocate. Power had found its first victim, and it was the one who held it. As the years passed, Nero's mind began to drift. He turned from politics to passion, poetry, theater, and music. He dreamed not of conquering nations, but of performing for them. He began to appear on stage, singing before nobles who dared not applaud too little or too loud. And the Senate watched, horrified, as the Emperor of Rome became a performer before his own court. But it was Agrippina's voice that haunted him most. She scolded him in public, mocked his decisions, and called him a child unfit to rule. The mother who built an emperor had forgotten, emperors do not share power. And one night Nero made his choice. He invited Agrippina to a feast. He smiled, poured her wine, and promised reconciliation. When she left, her boat sank mysteriously at sea. When she survived, Nero sent assassins to finish the job. Her last words to the man she created were chilling. "Strike my womb, the one that bore Nero." After her death, something inside him broke forever. He began to see betrayal in every shadow. Ministers, senators, generals, all became enemies in his mind. Those who praised him were spies. Those who warned him were traitors. He executed advisors, poets, and even his own wife, Octavia, for imagined conspiracies. Each death made him feel safer. Each life taken made him feel more alone. The young emperor was gone. In his place stood a god, or so he believed. Then came the fire. It began on a warm July night in 64 AD. Some said it started in a small shop near the Circus Maximus. Others whispered that Nero's own men lit the flames. What began as smoke became an inferno. The fire raced through wooden homes, temples, and marketplaces. It devoured everything in its path. By the time it stopped, 7 districts of Rome were ashes. People screamed in the streets, families lost everything. And from the distance, a silhouette stood on a hill, lyre in hand, as the flames danced below. Rumors spread like the fire itself. Nero watched Rome burn and sang. To some it was true. To others it was the perfect lie, born from hatred and jealousy. Nero tried to rebuild. He opened his gardens to the homeless, fed the hungry, and began constructing a new Rome grander than ever. But the people needed someone to blame. And Nero gave them one. The Christians. He accused them of starting the fire. They were arrested, tortured, and burned alive. Their screams lit the night as Nero called it justice. But justice was not what Rome saw. Rome saw madness. The empire that once cheered his name now whispered his downfall. Generals turned against him. The Senate began plotting rebellion. And Nero, paranoid and delusional, began to lose his grip on reality. He built his golden house, a palace so massive it stretched across the ruins of Rome. Its ceilings were gilded in gold, its halls filled with mirrors and pools of perfume. While his people starved, Nero built his heaven on earth. But heaven built on ashes cannot stand forever. In 68 AD, rebellion reached the gates of Rome. The armies of Spain and Gaul rose against him. The Senate declared Nero a public enemy, a man unworthy of his own crown. As soldiers marched toward his palace, Nero fled into the night with a handful of loyal servants. He hid in a small villa outside the city, trembling, barefoot, and haunted by the echo of his mother's words. He begged one of his servants to kill him, but none could. Finally, with tears in his eyes, Nero took the dagger himself. "Qualis artifex perio," he whispered. "What an artist dies in me." Then silence. The emperor who once ruled the world lay dead, not by war, not by justice, but by the fear he created. Rome did not mourn him. The Senate rejoiced. The people celebrated. But history never forgot him. Because in Nero's fall lies a truth older than time. Power never dies quietly. It feeds on those who wield it, until it consumes everything, even the heart that once believed it could control it. And that's how a young man, born in light, became the shadow that nearly burned Rome to the ground. Power, greed, fear. Every empire falls, not by the sword, but by the hands of its own. If you believe history still hides lessons for the present, subscribe, like, and hit the bell. Because on History Unsealed, the past is never truly buried.